Now at 11. Wind-whipped flames and entire towns left empty.
We're getting the heck out of here.
Several fires in Okanagan County rage out of control tonight.
And firefighters are battling those flames while mourning the loss of 3 comrades.
He loved life and he loved people and he wanted to help people.
We're hearing from the parents of one of those firefighters and from those of another facing a long recovery.
Tom Bushevsky followed in his parents' footsteps, fighting fires for the U.S. Forest Service. Now they are dealing with the pain of losing their son to something they know can be so unpredictable. Tom, one of 3 firefighters killed near Twisp, initially took on the summer work to raise money for college.
I mean, he certainly enjoyed the job, but it wasn't the main focus of his life. You know, school was the main focus of his life.
Yeah. The physics major was a straight-A student and poet, planning to return to Whitman College this month.
He was a special kid, you know. We're really going to miss Tom.
He's the kind of kid that his mother and I and family are so proud of. He loves the outdoors and serving his community. He's just been a great, wonderful child.
Today we saw investigators in the area where the accident that killed those firefighters happened. According to the Okanagan County Sheriff, the main scene is at the top of this hill up Woods Canyon Road. What we've learned is that the firefighters were in 2 brush trucks making initial attack when the wind suddenly changed direction 180 degrees. They got back into the trucks to head out. The smoke was thick and blinding. One of the vehicles drove over the edge of an embankment, the truck overtaken by flames. The other truck stayed on high ground.
Our team coverage begins with John Langler live at 11 from Omak after he was evacuated from Tonasket.
It was the haunting crackle of a feast.
It's eaten. It's a living, breathing thing.
Part of the Okanagan Complex fire, devouring dry grass, inhaling strong winds, and expanding.
This is a little different monster.
From Highway 20, the flames towered overhead just a mile from the road.
Oh my.
Reminding everyone being forced to evacuate exactly why they had to leave.
Fires from different counties are merging. Never seen it. It is flying down this hill.
And soon he'd seen enough.
I think I might need to go.
Okanagan County firefighters made one last visit to a home beneath the flames. One last warning to get out. Moments later, it's time to go. We joined them.
So we've been watching the fire burn. You can see it right here. It's crested this little ridge. We're on Highway 20, heading back towards Tonasket, and the winds have fueled it. Look at that. You can see how close it is right now. There's a family right below this ridge that just started evacuating. We're getting the heck out of here.
It's the hellstorm they expected to happen.
I had a Forest Service guy explaining to me that that's what their goal is, to make these monsters come. They want to come together.
And this is the moment a family's fears came into focus. A big fire with a backstory that started hours earlier with a rush to be ready.
They're awesome. I think they're from Oregon Strike Team.
On this road, firefighters make the round, clearing brush and reinforcing fire lines.
Just needs a little help.
Yeah. Doing what they can to prepare.
Just any of these tubs?
All a part of an anxious afternoon in Okanagan.
You want to get it out now, because we never know what's going to happen.
Let's go right here with it. Yeah.
At the Heindelsman house, they feel surrounded.
It's coming here. They're more worried about right over here in the corner. It's coming down this way, so they're worried about it coming down over here. Because it's right up in that canyon, and I guess they put it out over here on this morning, so they're worrying about that.
What they'd been waiting for came roaring in, touching the tops of trees, lighting up the night.
Uncles, cousins, everyone up here, everyone that's all spread out through here is all family.
When a wildfire becomes your fire.
These guys have been awesome. They just keep telling me, it's okay, it's okay. Don't you worry, it's okay.
A house still standing has a family counting their blessings so far.
About half an hour after the crew puts this fire out for a second time, out of nowhere, the roof catches fire. In a matter of minutes, it's in serious trouble. A passing water truck makes a third attempt to save the home, but its hoses can't reach the roof. With the firefighters onto the next house, this one is fated to burn to the ground.
I can't drive up and down the road and see it this way. It doesn't look the same. It's not the same. It will never be the same. A lot of memories were lost.
Family friends tried to save the property. They were up there on the roof. That explains the water buckets perched atop the chimney.
This was the garage. It's all gone.
Their grandfather's Model T, and decades worth of little things that make a house a home.
Our cousin said if you put a new cord on it and plug it in, it'll still work.
Trista and Tina say they'll rebuild.
The family is being picked up multiple locations, being brought in by State Patrol escort.
Kevin Garland with the Kent Fire Department organized the effort.
Diagonal. We're just going to keep it simple. We're going to use these lines.
More than 500 emergency responders answered the call.
There's the federal agencies, there's the state agencies, there's the fire departments.
They responded so they could honor and remember the 3 U.S. Forest Service firefighters who died nearly 2 weeks ago protecting this state. Andrew Zajac, Richard Wheeler, and Tom Bashevsky.
They died doing their jobs.
Justin Hughes is with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Fire Service out of Spokane. He's the driver of one of more than 100 emergency vehicles in today's procession.
It's not about fighting fire as much as it is when it comes down to it, and all hell's breaking loose about the men and women that are standing right next to you.
Even after more than 100 homes burned, today's loss hits the hardest.
It's pretty devastating to our community.
Especially for Dave Nail and the 28 members of the U.S. Forest Service who lined the street and said goodbye to 3 teammates.
So when we have a loss like this, it's very hard for all of us to come to grips with.
As the worst wildfire in Washington history continues to burn, people here knew, at least for today, it was okay to stop.
It gives us the opportunity to honor those folks that we serve with on a regular basis.
Tom, Andrew, and Richard deserve this respect.
It's really hard.
With photojournalist Dan Renzetti, I'm Alex Rozier.
Rest in peace, gentlemen. Rest in peace.
King 5 News.
If you're just joining us tonight, we continue following breaking news in Bremerton. Sky King is live over the scene of a natural gas explosion at the Motel 6 on Kitsap Way in Bremerton.
A split-second decision where I thought, okay, this would cause a major pandemonium, me pulling this alarm, but my gut told me to, and I'm glad I did, because it gave us that time.
The whole side of the building was built at 122. That's right there in that L shape, the bottom floor. Looked over, looked at the building, just collapsed on top of each other.
In this hour, I want to give you a new look at the debris and the cleanup that is happening here behind me as we go to one of our other photographers who's a little closer to the scene on a balcony where we can see the depth at which these crews are working here. That excavator is pulling piles of debris away from the explosion site.
News. Our prayers go out to his family. It could have been worse.
Bremerton's fire chief emotional today, talking about the explosion that tore through a Motel 6. New security video just released shows the blast that ripped apart walls, destroying a large part of the building. No victims have been found in the rubble, but there are prayers for a gas company worker critically injured.
She's the clerk who saved lives before the explosion.
Have you been over to retrieve your stuff yet?
Tanya Hines smelled gas and evacuated everyone from this Motel 6.
Okay.
Tonight, she called guests back to pick up their belongings.
We'll see when you get here, okay?
Never expected to be doing this.
Among the people stopping by were Andrew and Matthew Root. Nearly 24 hours after the blast, they returned to their room and realized what a close call it really was.
It was really closer than I thought it would be.
Had the explosion knocked out any more rooms, theirs would have been next. Back outside the front desk, guests have come and gone, but there's one man on Tanya Hines' mind.
That's a hard one because he came here to help us.
Larry Jennings, the 59-year-old gas worker who was the lone person injured in the explosion.
We just hope he has a good and fast recovery.
For everyone here, it's been a hard day. And that is made clear when you see the hero clerk tonight.
I had seen photos of the explosion before I got the call about Dad, that he was involved. I was blown away by the pictures I was seeing and hoping that no one was involved, and then I found out about 20 minutes later I got the call that Dad was being airlifted to here to Harborview.
Yeah, that first night we did not expect him to make it.
We were saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Larry now has a broken back and neck with severe burns to his arms and head, but doctors say he will survive.
In my opinion, an angel stepped in front of him and saved him, because a blast like that, so close, it's a miracle.
Tonight, massacre on a college campus, a gunman opening fire at an Oregon community college.
And when we ran out of the building, everybody went every which way. It was so chaotic.
Young lives lost in a senseless tragedy as we learn more about the shooter.
It's a tragedy we've become all too familiar with. Now, many of us ask, when does the violence stop?
The classroom, unfortunately, that the shooting occurred was, in fact, my writing class. And a young lady that I met there with a very kind heart was one of the victims, unfortunately.
The people of Roseburg may be broken right now, but a veteran of this town wants you to know something.
Well, we come together, you know, that's what we do.
Nearly 22,000 call this community home, and it will take all of them to find light in this dark time.
We have crews covering this story in Oregon and here as well tonight.
NBC News has learned it was Chris Harper Mercer, a 26-year-old who apparently did not attend the college. Tonight, investigators are inside his apartment behind us trying to figure out what went wrong.
Federal Department of Homeland Security agents, working with local detectives and police dogs, have spent the night searching for clues at Chris Harper Mercer's apartment, less than 2 miles from the community college. Earlier in the day, investigators say he had 4 weapons. One was a long gun, similar to an assault-style rifle. The shooter's father, who lives in California, says he's shocked.
I've just been talking to the police and the FBI. That's all the details I have right now, is what you guys know already.
As pictures from the community college crime scene made its way to the public, this worried mom gathered details.
But they did tell me that it had happened in the writing class, and I knew Jason had the writing class. And then I couldn't find him, and we didn't hear from him. And I know if my son could have called me, he would have. He's gone. I will never see him again. I'll remain his mom forever, and I'll love him forever, but I'll never see his smiling little face again. Till we meet. Till it's my turn.
Hi, are you ready?
Cherie Hall owns Tapestry Tattoo. Today, she was busy.
So it's the Oregon outline with Roseburg Strong and a green heart.
Really busy.
A lot of people, this is going to be their first tattoo. So that's really cool.
I'm kind of nervous.
Outside, Madeline Shirley was first in a quickly growing line.
I'm getting my first tattoo today, and I think this is for a good cause. So.
Few would argue, considering where she was October 1st, the UCC campus.
I was in the room next door, and I just remember hearing the shots, and then I ran out of the room.
On her 4th day of college, Shirley hid in the library.
You know, 9 people lost their lives that day, and I'm doing this in honor of them. You know, those are moms, children, aunts, uncles. They're never going to have their life back. I want this to, as a representation, to honor them, and so that nobody ever forgets that day.
The president is set to arrive here shortly. We're told Marine One is in the air. I want to go to live pictures at Roseburg High, where it appears this is the place, the high school, where President Obama will meet with the families of the 9 students killed last week. The timing here is really angering a lot of folks here in this conservative community. Outside the airport right now, hundreds of people are lining the streets in protest. This is where they think the president would land his helicopter before heading to the high school. These Second Amendment activists have had some pretty tough words for the president this morning. They're urging him to stay away, keep their hands off their guns.
We stand with our sheriff, we stand with our community. This is for our community. Let them grieve. Get your agenda out of our face.
You're celebrating these kids coming back to school.
I guess it's hard.
Because they have to be very brave.
It was just 11 days ago, 9 people died at UCC. 10 when you count the shooter.
I've sat in that classroom, as have several of my children.
Michelle Ottenheimer was one of hundreds to line the path to campus. as students and staff drove towards normalcy. Not only does she live next to campus, she and 6 of her children went there.
This is our community, and we are supportive.
On campus itself, administrators did what they could to give the school space. There was little public access, but it was clear the welcome was overwhelming.
I feel like it's going to be something that I'll think about probably every day.
Never gonna forget it, but I think you'll get used to it over time. So it'll come back to normal eventually.
In the meantime, UCC knows it's not alone.
They're supposed to be paying for their crimes by cleaning up the community.
There's very little work done.
But we discovered King County's community work program wasn't working.
Sarah, who asked that we not use her last name, was sentenced on a shoplifting charge and assigned to work supervisor Sam Ong.
It was more like a group of teenagers hanging out with some old guy. It was awkward and weird.
Sarah filed this complaint with the county in 2012, alerting officials to what she said was a sexually charged atmosphere and offers from other crew members to join their supervisor after work.
They were trying to get me to go to the bar with them and drink and go back to his house that night or whatever, and I said no.
I want to make sure I understand this right. The supervisor is drinking with the offenders.
Yes. Yes.
Like they were friends.
Yes.
Records show Sam Ong said, "I don't remember," when asked by investigators if he agreed to meet his crew at a bar. He denied doing anything improper.
It sounds to me like the supervisor needs to be supervised.
Carol Schaefer called the police on Ong's work crew in the summer of 2014 after she was approached by another woman at Newcastle Beach Park in Bellevue.
She said, "Excuse me, there's been a couple of guys that have been taking photos and videos of you while you're sunbathing."
They were members of Sam Ong's work crew. He claimed they were taking scenic pictures. But why were they even at the park, which was not their assigned job site that day? In a statement to his bosses, Ong wrote he drove to the park to take a break after completing our work for the day. Yet records show the police call came in an hour and a half before their shift was scheduled to end.
I never got any follow-up.
Carol said she never heard anything more from police or work program managers.
As a taxpayer in Bellevue, I pay to have these programs work properly, and I'd like to see that happen properly.
It's like they're picking up somebody's garbage. Records also reveal this isn't the first time this supervisor abused his position. We caught him bringing his crew over to a home he owns in Shoreline. They brought out big garbage bags and power tools. That supervisor, Gary Liu, is a King County employee, paid $62,000 a year to manage his work crews. Can you tell us why you brought the crew to that house?
Well, I have no comment. You need to talk to the public relations on that.
But that was your house, wasn't it?
Yep.
We found these photos in a 2-year-old file through a public records request. They show a county work van and trailer parked in front of Liu's primary residence in Renton. These were part of a complaint filed in 2013 that Liu was using county equipment to renovate his home. Neighbors saw the official-looking van parked at Liu's house day and night.
The information that you brought forth, those situations are still being investigated.
In an interview in May, the head of the Department of Detention said he's not convinced that all those prior complaints filed before he was in charge were properly dealt with.
All I can do is try to fix those type of incidents in the future and ensure that we're addressing them accordingly.
The county launched internal investigations after our stories aired. Earlier this month, County Council's Accountability and Oversight Committee called the jail's director before the council, demanding an explanation. Field supervisors Sam Ong and Gary Liu, who you saw in our stories, have both been fired, and a new manager is now running the jail division that oversees the community work program.
They're coming there with everything that they have to get into the emergency room and then to be told that they can't be helped there.
Collecting evidence in a rape case is a race against the clock.
It just takes a lot out of them emotionally to have to go someplace else.
But we learned only a few hospitals in our area actually offer rape exams for victims.
I remember walking down the street and specifically telling him that I did not want to have sex with him. I remember being on his bed with my feet bound together. And I remember pain and stabbing sensations, and then saw a pool of blood and ran out the door.
The teacher told police she believed she'd been drugged and raped.
I managed to call a friend who found me standing in the intersection and took me home.
Hours later, she drove to the closest emergency room, Swedish Ballard.
They told me that they do not provide rape kits there. They did not find my injury, and then they sent me out the door.
What happened to her isn't unique. There are some 90 hospital emergency rooms across our state, yet only a small fraction are staffed with especially trained nurses who do rape exams and collect evidence in rape kits.
Estimates that we can find are somewhere around 10% in our state.
Some victims give up. Others will drive to another hospital to get a rape kit done. All the while, the clock is ticking for collection of time-sensitive evidence. In the case of the Seattle teacher, Swedish referred her to Harborview, the only Seattle hospital staffed with a forensic nurse to do a rape kit. She drove herself there, but not until the next day, after sleeping, taking a shower, and calming down. The delay in getting that kit done would have a big impact on her quest for justice.
It would be nice to know that when you lay on this bed in this room in front of all these people and they swab and take photographs of your naked body, that evidence was for something.
And welcome back to King 5's coverage of the May Day protest, the late-night protest in Seattle, where anarchists have managed to trash parts of the city and now are causing trouble in other parts of the town.
Yes, we are here at Melrose and Olive here on Capitol Hill, where just in the last couple of minutes we've seen rubber bullets used by a couple of SPD officers come to this area to protect these people from walking on Interstate 5 on this Friday night. Right in front of us now, you can see this bike unit pushing the crowd back, pushing it away from downtown. We've seen a fair amount of damage as these people that are part of this march have gone down. You can see more pepper spray being deployed. I can see a man got hit right in the eye. There's more. We're going to back up for our own safety. There were a few protesters chanting Black Lives Matter.
Let's go to King 5's Danielle Lee.
You guys, I'm Danielle Lee right now live on Broadway, where you can see that officers have created a barricade. They have basically splintered this protest in half. I've heard 3 to 5 flashbangs. I have seen officers spray several people in the eyes with pepper spray. A flashbang just went off right in front of us right now, and officers are yelling to get back. We weren't able to see what caused this intense reaction from officers, but they are very clearly deciding to stop these protesters.
A massive contingent of bikes, the heart of SPD's crowd management plan, used to form movable fences and to splinter the marchers. And watch this. 1 minute it's calm, the next a virtual army of bike cops swoop in to surround a couple of officers apparently trying to subdue a suspect. They form a neat little box, a protective shield.
It's super upsetting. There's no reason. Like, this is a school that people come to get educated. If the biggest problem is people not being educated, then why would they destroy a school? It's a school.
It's a very logical conclusion to draw, but this night there was no logic. Animals. And in seconds, the spray paint was out again. Cleaning spray paint is one thing.
No more fires! No more fires!
Standing up to a bully with a burning barrel, another.
Stop it! Stop it! No fires! Stop it!
Yes, those who came here to make trouble got themselves on television. But let's give credit to these folks who found some sense on a night that made no sense at all.
A Salvation Army kettle on one corner and an army of protesters on the other.
Black Lives Matter! You know, this is a family holiday function, and it's a little bit overboard in my opinion, but you know, what can you do?
There's no stopping them, Browen's mom told us. And as protesters stormed the Macy's store on 3rd Avenue, the staff and shoppers inside realized she was right.
It's ridiculous. I mean, we're just trying to have a good day out. I mean, trying to bring the family down here without, getting pushed out of a store.
Frustration from some.
What do you think? Too loud.
If you do not listen to her, your event will be shut down right now.
You are disrupting this event. We will. No, you are shutting it down. We are shutting.
As the crowd chanted Bernie in the background, a standoff of sorts occurred on the stage. Bernie never did get a chance to address the hundreds gathered at the Social Security rally, but he managed to wave to his supporters.
Thank you very much.
And shake hands with as many as he could before making his way out of Westlake Park.
The road to City Hall
You've done everything that you can do, and we'll see what happens.
runs through guys like John Weibel.
It's crazy for the last 3 weeks of the campaign.
Weibel manages Thomas, Morales, Beach, Maddox, Watkins, O'Brien, and Grant.
Do we know anything more about turnout?
And then there's 47-year-old Christian Sinderman.
Up north in District 5 with Sandy Brown.
He's running 8 campaigns: Brown, Burgess, Banks, Bagshaw, Braddock, Gonzalez, Harrell, and Johnson. For these kingmakers, it'll be good if at least one candidate takes home a crown.
I know there are a lot of new names on this year's ballot. What do you do if you want to learn more about them?
Well, just go to king5.com to our local politics page, and there we have compiled almost all of our election stories, which I tried to ask some fun personal questions like, what is your favorite part of your district? And it really gives some extra insight into the personalities of these candidates.
Breaking into programming here as we follow breaking news in Seattle. A duck tour bus has been involved in a head-on crash with a charter bus. We're learning there are several people injured here. Clearly, this is a mass casualty incident here.
You can see them on top of the Ride the Duck vehicle, trying to get people out, looking inside. You see that one firefighter in the middle of your screen there coming down off of a ladder. That firefighter was just inside the bus, seeing if there was anyone else inside. And right there, the kind of bottom right of your screen, you see another patient being put on a stretcher.
We continue to see people on stretchers. The last one that I just saw was a lady who was completely had blood all over her body. She is now on the other side of the fire truck, so we will spare you that sight right now. But we've been pushed back just a bit from police. We continue to see firefighters with the boards that they use to take severely injured people.
Well, yeah, you can hear the sirens coming in nonstop. I've seen 8 or 9 different ambulances come in, and we just learned that there are 9 patients on the way to Harborview in critical condition. Here's another ambulance coming in right now. This is.
You know, I know what's happening here, and I know what's happening with the other patients that have been transferred.
Okay, it looks like they're actually bringing in a patient right now across the street. This is a very fluid situation. You can tell they were yelling, "Seattle police, get out of the way." Let me see where Susan Gregg just went, the spokeswoman for the hospital. She looks like she stepped out behind the camera. You can see this is a hectic scene outside of Harborview. There's been a non-stop movement of ambulances in.
I got jostled around, finally came to a stop. It was just terrible. There was so many people in so much pain. I could tell what was going on. I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. I didn't know how to help.
And we have crews on both sides of the bridge. Ryan Takeo on the north, but we begin with Michael Konopasek, who was our first crew to arrive on the south side of the bridge. Michael.
We have triaged a number of patients. We found that 4 had passed away already here on scene, 4 DOA.
They're trying to work on one guy. They've hauled off most of the people.
We've transported 44 patients.
A lot of cars just got missed. It's just the chance of them hitting a bus full of people with no seatbelts. That's the worst. A lot of lives just got changed really fast.
Now, federal investigators are charged with finding a cause.
And the crash is sparking questions about safety on the Aurora Bridge.
A morning that started at Pike Place Market, then Tim Gester and his wife were off for coffee at the world's first Starbucks.
So we did that, then we went up and we got on the monorail, went over to the Space Needle to go across the street to take our duck boat tour.
At 10:30, they were 2 of dozens on a packed duck boat tour. He said he captured this image on the Aurora Avenue Bridge 1 second before this.
As I turned my head, I heard the driver say, "Oh no," and I knew we were going to go head on. It's just a question of how bad it was going to be.
And as the police investigation gets underway, so does a community-wide effort to support the victims.
That's what it's all about. Giving.
An overwhelming response to an urgent call for blood donors in the aftermath of the crash.
You want to make an appointment for tomorrow?
They said the wait was going to be about 2 hours, so they might be calling my name here shortly.
We're very grateful for you guys.
Yet another kind, compassionate gesture.
The response is amazing.
In the midst of so much sadness.
You're Seattle people. We care about everybody.
Yeah.
If curbs could talk and the marks tell stories. There is no shoulder on the Aurora Bridge, just this barricade protecting the sidewalk, and it's relatively new. You can see where wheel lug nuts from trucks have taken hunks out of that curb. I can tell you from personal experience, I've driven this bridge twice a day for nearly 3 decades. You find yourself gripping the wheel that much tighter, and I find myself always looking over in that opposite direction, wondering, is somebody going to come over that center line?
They found that an 8-mile stretch of 99 was the 3rd worst high accident corridor in the state, and that on the bridge, they recommended widening the lanes and adding a median barrier, something to keep cars from crossing into oncoming traffic. 12 years have gone by, and neither of those things have happened.
12 years ago, there was a formal recommendation to improve the safety of this bridge, and the fact that we, as a city and as a state, have not done that is just gut-wrenching for everyone.
These are photos of 18-year-old Phuong Dinh at Gasworks Park. Little did she know that the Aurora Bridge in the background would be the site of a horrible collision later that day that would leave her hospitalized for months.
I cry every day. I cry every day, every night.
A lonely stay now that the visitors and the support have waned.
The school is supposed to help us the most, but I don't think so. They hardly come to see me. You know?
Her insurance coverage through the school will end January 4th. Now this woman fears she could be on her own. She hopes someone will hear her call for help.
You're watching a K5 special presentation. Oso's Journey, Strength and Survival.
It was 10:37 in the morning, March 22nd, 2014, when the hillside behind me here in Oso collapsed. 43 lives were swept away. To mark the anniversary of that devastating day, for the next hour, we'll check in with survivors, first responders, and the families of the victims.
Well, March the 22nd started off like just any other day.
911, what is your emergency?
It happened so fast and with no warning.
There is a house and a big slide, and it is covering the road.
I heard an ungodly sound.
And then I looked out our front door, and it was like a movie. Houses were exploding.
I got the chance to say, oh my God, and then it hit us.
I'm sure your family is very proud of you. Please don't give up.
I think about who was at the house next door, and I think about everybody that passed.
There's a greater sense of community in this region, and I've seen that bond get even stronger in many instances.
When the earth finally stopped moving, Amanda was pinned beneath furniture, heavy debris, and what was left of their home. And 5-month-old Duke had a skull fracture.
He was dirty and a little blue, and I thought I was losing him.
She had no choice but to place her whole world in the arms of a stranger, seen here carrying Duke to safety.
Who do we got? You got a basket? Yes, we do.
The next hour for the new mom was agonizing as she awaited her own rescue and worried about her precious baby boy.
She had a baby with her when we come in. Where's the baby? Already out.
And it was months before Amanda was ready to watch this video, taken by the Snohomish County helicopter crew, who strapped her to a backboard.
Open it up.
And took inventory of her injuries.
Broken arm, broken ankle with a heavy laceration to the foot.
A memory that will haunt her forever.
Hi, Amanda Skorians.
Nearly a year later, life for this still healing family is a constant cycle of hospital visits and physical therapy.
Okay, go ahead and relax.
X-rays show you the screws that are now holding together Amanda's shattered ankle. She's been through 10 reconstructive surgeries already.
Oh, are you sleepy?
And doctors are far from finished.
That's pretty painful for you. I'm sorry.
It never gets easier.
I realize that pain's gonna be forever, but it just sucks.
Yet every time the tears start to fall and the road to recovery starts to look like a dead end, comes a moment like this.
Keep going.
Duke's first steps, shaky but swift.
Boy.
His first birthday, his first trip to see Santa. Duke defies the odds every single day.
They said he's doing great. His injuries are all healing up good. You want to go back up?
And every milestone this now 16-month-old hits serves as motivation for his mother.
I mean, the second I see him, I smile. Every morning.
In a lot of ways, Amanda believes the same is true for the people of Oso.
He's the light. He's that little bit of hope that everybody had.
Duke is the success story his heartbroken hometown,
sir?
so desperately needed.
Yay!
The brave little boy turned landslide survivor. He emerged from the mud, a pint-sized picture of perseverance.
He has touched more people in the year that he's been here than he'll ever know or even begin to fathom.
There is beauty all around Washington State, from the coast to the Cascades and beyond. But is climate change threatening these natural wonders?
Keep swimming, guys. Looking good.
Now, a closer look at what's happening in Puget Sound. The toll on the state's snowpack and glaciers. Wildfire worries.
They just started evacuating. We're getting the heck out of here.
Following a record season of destruction. And what could happen to farms across the state.
When you start getting near record occurrences on a regular basis, something's going on.
This is a King 5 special presentation. Beyond the Forecast. Climate Change.
Now, in 1900, 500,000 people lived in Washington State, releasing modest amounts of greenhouse gases. Let me represent that number. This thermal imaging camera shows that impact and how small our carbon footprint was then. Today, of course, we use and release far more energy. And multiply me by 14, and you have the equivalent of today's state population of 7 million plus, releasing far more greenhouse gases and leaving behind a much bigger carbon footprint. The discussion on climate change has focused on three questions: science, politics, and economics. But recently it expanded to include a fourth: faith. That's what brought me here to Rome, to the Vatican, to St. Peter's Square. Pope Francis is seeking to literally upend attitudes toward climate change by writing this new book called an encyclical, Laudato Si.
And today is Transgender Day of Remembrance, an opportunity to honor the lives lost in acts of anti-transgender violence.
King 5's Jenna Hanchard spent the last couple of months following a transgender woman on her journey of transition.
And when you feel you're ready, you can open your eyes.
At 58 years old, Catherine Mahan is ready to live her truth as a transgender woman.
Love that.
So
I didn't want to be transgender. Right, and she didn't want to be lesbian. We thought, well, let's try being straight.
So he got married to a woman named Sandra. They gave birth to one child and adopted 8 others. But the truth was missing.
I hated pretending to be a guy, you know, but I could do it. I was a very good actor.
South Prairie Creek was identified a long time ago as a very productive reach for salmon spawning and rearing.
His act was especially hard at work as the director of the Pierce Conservation District in Puyallup.
If anybody ever got any clue to who I was, there would be no job, there would be no love. When a transgender person comes out, the person you used to be, part of that kind of dies for people, and that's really hard. I know it's hard.
But every now and then it does get hard when kids talk about their dads, and I don't really have one, so yeah.
But the family came together and supported the transition from Monty to Catherine.
I don't mind if she changes as long as she's happy. Like, if she's happy, I'm happy.
Knowing that like she kept it like bottled up for so long, and it makes me happy though that she came out and like she's doing it.
It's a dilemma. I'm legally female. Anatomically, I'm both.
When we come back, we'll travel with Catherine 1,500 miles away from Washington to Arizona, where Catherine's transition will continue.
Once I get the surgery, I take a female slot.
The surgery isn't going to change how people look at me. I'm still going to be really tall, and I'm still going to be really queer. But I'll be more confident.
There's nothing I ever thought I would see.
For Catherine, it's taken more than half a century to erode her lies and reveal her truth.
There's just a lot going through my mind right now.
It's a journey she says she couldn't have done without her faith.
I was raised very Christian, and so I could see the majesty of God in everything.
Even though Catherine has struggled with how to be Christian and transgender, she says she will never silence her faith.
Today is the day.
There is also relief.
Yeah.
For a woman who waited her entire life.
Never thought I'd be seeing this.
To be herself.
I can't wait to see how it turns out.
Here we are. Okay, well, see you around. Oh, something feels different.
We went to her room the next day, and the colors of pride were peeking through her window.
It hasn't fully sunk in yet. You know, it's still happening.
And the dreams that Catherine dared to dream about living her authentic life.
I mean, when I get up and walk around, and the first time I get dressed and everything, take a shower, all that stuff.
Those dreams have come true.
It's deeper than happy. It's content. It's like, yeah.
Question. When you look in the mirror, what do you see?
Well, I warm up.
What if I told you she sees... You heard me right. I said she.
I kind of like the shade.
She sees. Melissa.
I see the person I'm becoming.
She's Melissa Batson.
It's great to be Melissa, yes. It's great to be, let me say though, it's great to be who you are.
Who she is.
I identify as a woman.
Who she was. You were Tom then?
Yes.
Not Melissa.
Not Melissa, no.
Tom.
Tom
Batson.
Was always on edge. Always nervous. Melissa is not. Tom was an introvert. Melissa is an extrovert. A part of me will always be Tom.
Second lieutenant in the Army, tank platoon leader. Those were desperate times. These are good times now.
Life is good for me.
Melissa's father would never learn that. And this.
I am very happy, yes.
How she starts her day.
Every morning I put on makeup.
That she works for Costco. That she hasn't had gender reassignment surgery yet. That she lives 100% as Melissa.
It's not a big deal. Our fight really is for civil rights.
Human decency.
This is Yahya Canlis. How could somebody possibly have stabbed her 57 times, for God's sake? 57 times. Maybe it's because they see us as not able to fight back.
She was 17 years old. We won't remember.
Every year,
Laura was 16 years old.
We have a ceremony to remember the transgender persons who have been murdered in the past year.
Veronica Bismarck.
Carol Mello. Kyle Reginald.
160 names.
Christina Gomez.
Lorena Garcia.
Raisa Marie.
Were read on this night.
And stabbed to death.
And nobody should have to go out like that.
And that's why you do this.
Yes, it is.
Come to the door! The Drug Task Force visits this house every other Thursday.
We met before here, right?
Deputies can give you the addresses of 100 more that are even worse.
Sounds like there's a ton of people in here.
They're neglected, abandoned, filthy.
It looks like human feces right there.
Used needles tossed around like peanut shells.
Here's what you're doing wrong.
The heroin addicts live with no power, so they steal it from their neighbors. One man showed us this video from his backyard.
Here I noticed that there was a cord out one morning, and we unplugged it and tossed it back.
The victims of heroin don't live in this squalor. They live next door.
When I look out my window, I see that garbage.
Deputies also don't have anything to help Cindy Perkins.
Well, it's depressing. I just get in bed and cry every night.
Cindy is an innocent victim of heroin. She lives in a nice condo near a problem house.
They have no respect for anybody's property. They dump garbage in the back. They dump it over there. They dump it across the street. They dump it on our property in the back, and I've had it. I want somebody to do something.
Out back, we saw another heap of garbage. And lounging on the patio,
is there needles back there?
Another innocent victim of heroin.
So we've been waiting outside because we don't want to go inside.
Why don't you want to go inside?
Because there's just a bunch of heroin addicts in there. I don't associate myself with them, so I stay out here. I just sit out here with the flies and sit in with them.
Austin Basham is 19 years old. Heroin is not stealing his water or his power.
She's the one that brought me into the world.
Heroin is stealing his mother.
Like you see all the garbage back here. That's probably the nicest place she's been in like 6 months probably. I tell her a day and I want to do better, but it's something like she's gonna have to choose. It's not like something I can tell her. I've told her multiple times. I've tried to get into rehab multiple times. It's something I can't do. It's something she's gonna choose to do.
The commander comes to places like this because people like this have hit the very bottom.
For them, number one is drug.
They live with the rats. They are slowly killing themselves along with the land. They burn trash, car batteries, and printers.
Setting the woods on fire probably ain't the right way to go about that.
Toxins seeping into the soil, chemicals creeping into the air. The county is going to bulldoze the campground, kick everyone out. It'll be a huge cleanup.
It all stems from our heroin problem.
But only a small dent in the fight to help the helpless victims of heroin. We continue now with Robin's story.
Very active and very happy and extroverted when she was young.
Robin Bosch came from a good family in Gig Harbor.
She was social, she was happy.
She was working at this restaurant drive-thru in Bremerton when her boyfriend suggested she try heroin. Her dad found her passed out in the woods.
Don't bite me.
He recorded this video when he and other paramedics were trying to take her to the hospital.
She came home the next day and then wrote her long letter and disappeared. The phrase was, "I want the black." She was choosing the heroin over family and everything else.
I got a private Facebook message from somebody that I had no idea who he was, that said he knew her, and we went back and forth a couple of times privately messaging each other, and I finally had to ask how he knew my daughter.
I met her on Craigslist.
Either he had answered an ad or she had answered a Craigslist ad for money for sex.
We agreed upon a price, and she came out and she spent the night, and things did move on past that.
His name's Ron Morse. I tracked him down on the shabby outskirts of Portland.
She was going down pretty quick.
Now more than 2 years since he first met and hired Robin on Craigslist.
I said, look, you don't know me, and I know your daughter, and she needs your help.
But for some reason, felt that he needed to help this girl.
So we had to meet him.
Very, very nice to me under the conditions.
As a dad, I wanted to literally throttle this John.
Across the freeway, you got to go down this secret little, ramp.
Robert couldn't throttle this John, at least not yet. This John knew where to find his daughter. At night, she was living in a homeless camp under the Burnside Bridge.
And that's where I heard she was.
By day, she was begging for money in the heart of downtown Portland, Pioneer Courthouse Square.
I overdosed 3 times when I was in Portland. I wanted to die. I looked for death. But God wouldn't let me.
This is Robin Bosch today.
Hi there.
She's 24.
I went to a hospital detox.
3 years after shooting up for the first time and overdosing 3 times, Robin is back in Washington getting help. She bikes to outpatient treatment 3 days a week. She spends afternoons volunteering at a mission in downtown Bremerton.
I'm still at the very beginning. I have a long way to go. It's not easy. She has to forgive herself. We're still afraid. It can crash at any moment. We know that. We have our daughter back. Happy family.
It's
Traffic's so bad, our choke points have names.
We have our typical Boeing slowing, getting up to stay around 526.
Blocking the box.
Adds up to a gridlock.
The Mercer mess.
There's absolutely nothing that I like about Mercer. It's just been absolutely terrible here.
So, what's the fix? More roads? Adding lanes?
There is no way to accommodate the number of cars back in the old traditional model, unless you're going to take down blocks and blocks and blocks and turn them into roads.
Hot lanes and tolls, buses and bikes. Do we just have to learn to live with congestion?
what every major metropolitan area is grappling with is what level of congestion is acceptable.
Tonight, we put the questions to the people responsible for fixing the mess. Fighting traffic, a King 5 Town Hall. Now, your host, King 5 News anchor, Jean Anderson.
Good evening and welcome to this topic more people talk about than football, maybe even than sex, fighting traffic. Welcome to our town hall. Everyone pretty much agrees traffic's bad and getting worse. But what do we do? So tonight, we put these questions to some of the state's most important decision makers.
Seattle once moved most people by rail. In the early 1900s, electric streetcars and trolleys crisscrossed town, while interurban trains carried passengers from Tacoma to beyond Everett.
The interurbans were running every half hour in those days. And one bit coming one way or the other every few minutes.
The beautiful, sleek, modern motor cars.
But as cars got cheaper, they pushed out trains.
Your car and Washington's highways are an unbeatable combination.
The car became king, and building roads, the keys to the kingdom.
Highways are the arteries that carry the life-giving stream of vehicles.
Rail almost came back. As Seattle grew in the 60s, civic leaders formulated a plan. 49 miles of rapid transit, a subway under the city with trains running above ground between the highways north and south, even crossing Lake Washington on I-90 to Bellevue and Redmond. The federal government offered hundreds of millions to pay 80% of the project, which was called forward thrust. But opponents feared mass transit would spur more growth and said it was too expensive. And those federal dollars left Seattle and came here to Atlanta, Georgia. They were used to build this, MARTA, a heavy rail rapid transit system, a system that carries nearly 250,000 riders every day.
The city of Vancouver has roughly 18 miles of protected lanes through and around downtown. The lanes all feature a curb or buffer like a planter, so cars and cycles don't mix. There are even designated signals too. Vancouver's transportation director says safety was a driving factor in implementation.
If you're really interested in getting people into biking, you do have to find out what's stopping them from biking. What are their barriers right now? The number one reason people don't bike is because they're afraid to be out there in traffic.
I like the fact that they're separated. More often than not, they've got a boundary along the side that are safe.
Cyclist Michael Cowan says it's a valid argument.
There's a lot of tourists in Vancouver, and they don't always see the symbol on the ground. But with a separated bike route, you certainly feel a lot safer.
What would it take to put a system like this in place in Seattle? Well, like just about everything, it would cost a lot of money.
Even for 10 blocks of a separated bike lane downtown could cost $1 million.
Seattle has only 5 miles of protected lanes with hopes to fund another 10 miles in the city center, some of which may depend on whether voters approve the Move Seattle levy this fall.
And we're always glad to have our neighbors from the south come and visit us.
Vancouver says it also has grand plans to expand the successful cycle track.
You feel so much more at ease.
And keep the wheels in motion.
Our King 5 Super Bowl road trip is underway again with the first stop in Spokane.
Good evening from a very snowy Spokane. Good morning from Boise. And our road trip continues in Las Vegas. I'm Alex Rozier.
We are at Super Bowl Central in the heart of downtown Phoenix, and they are still putting the finishing touches on things around here. As you can tell, the Super Bowl logo's half finished up there.
Call it up.
Take a look at what we found when we got here. A whole lot of 12s have already arrived.
One more time for back home.
So let's take a look now at the live stage right here at Super Bowl Central. There is Jordan Sparks.
There is not an empty seat at Shadow Mountain High School's football stadium tonight, and here is why. All for wounded warriors and the heroes that proudly served our country. Out there on this field tonight, everyone from Snoop Dogg to ESPN's Kenny Mayne. And playing quarterback right there is former Seahawk Dave Craig.
It was an epic end to the season that got the Seahawks here to Arizona, and now parked outside of their team hotel is an epic bus.
His entire family and all of his friends in Phoenix and his former coaches here at Desert Vista High School, all of them will be pulling for the Seahawks.
Let's go to King 5's Chris Daniels, who is live in Oakland.
And you know, Marshawn Lynch has made it clear, as well as his friends and family here in Oakland, that for him, his foundation may be more important than football.
Seahawks cornerback, all-pro cornerback Richard Sherman, he has a lot more to think about these days than just football. His girlfriend is pregnant. And Alex Rozier has an exclusive interview with his girlfriend, and Alex joins us live tonight from the team hotel.
What happens if you go into labor on Super Bowl Sunday?
Well, I guess we'll have a Super Bowl baby, and if you see Richard heading for the locker room right after it hits 0 in the fourth quarter, don't be surprised.
We have team coverage tonight across Seattle, but we start with Paul Sylvie live at University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale. Paul.
It was an amazing game. If you're just a football fan, it was a tremendous game to be sitting on the couch and watching. But if you're a Seahawks fan, it is an absolute heartbreaker. The Seahawks.
15 years ago is when this all started. We launched a campaign that's now the largest one-day food drive in the state of Washington. Today, we hope to raise 5 million meals for people in need.
Now, you can donate by texting, or we've got 11 locations set up throughout the region.
Hi, guys. It's a beautiful day for a boat ride, right? Well, look at this. We have got a boatload of food. This all came from Pacific Nautique. We've got two cute little deckhands here, Alexis and Eliza. Eliza, go ahead and honk that horn. Listen to this. Push it. There we go. We got the horn.
Now I'm looking around, and every single one of them is on the phone right now. So thank you so much.
We have another $100,000 for Northwest Harvest. So $140,000 from Safeway Albertsons.
$140,000. That's fantastic. The only problem is these checks are really tough to put in your wallet when you try to get to the bank to put these in.
It's your chance to donate to a great cause and get a pair of these cool neon 12-feet shades. And King 5's Meg Coyle joins us live in Tacoma, where there was a line around the block earlier. Meg, good morning.
You guys, we are out of glasses. Can you believe this? Donations are just mind-blowing. We're talking about more than 2,000 pounds collected just this morning. Here's just a little sample of this. They've been filling up the truck load after load with boxes full.
We would love to see you out here at Eastside Harley. Thanks very much. Yeah, so bring your donations to Northwest Harvest, cash, food, and come and pick up your 12-feet shades. You don't want to miss out because the line was pretty long here early this morning, so we would love to see you out here. You only have one other opportunity outside of this morning to get your 12-feet shades, so get on out here to Eastside Harley in Bellevue.
Tonight on Evening.
We are Team Evening coming to you from downtown Seattle.
The force is strong with this one.
What is that?
It is. That's my, that's my
Yoda. Hello, Yoda. And we're going to meet the Stanwood man who created his very own R2-D2.
So you got to the bottom of something last night. We've all seen the Hawks doing this to the camera when they do something great. You found out exactly what that means.
Yeah, last week I saw Jermaine Kearse do it, and then yesterday you may have seen Richard Sherman doing it after Doug Baldwin scored the touchdown. Well, I got a text from one of the players. I asked him, and I can't tell you who, but one of the players tells me, so it confirms this is what they're doing. Tapping the wrist where a watch would be means time to go to work.
Time to go to work.
And they did.
Just a few hours until Monday Night Football, but you know the 12s are already converging on CenturyLink Field. Evenings, Michael King is down by the stadium to show us what's happening. Michael, they're already there.
They are, Margaret. They've been here for quite a while. The game's still like 5 or 6 hours away, and they are ready to go.
Please welcome lead actress Brie Larson. When I finally get to meet you.
Fine. We're matching.
And we do kind of match. You're in Seahawks blue. Can you be a Seahawks fan for the day?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The skies of Seattle are about to light up
as we say so long to 2015 and hello 2016. It's T-Mobile New Year's at the Needle.